What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets powered by FTN right here live on our FTN Network YouTube page, also on Game Plus Network, part of Anthem Sports Entertainment. Always a pleasure to be part of Game Plus Network. We have a fun show here for you today. My good old pal, Andrew Paterson, a.k.a. Hustler Rama, is going to join me in just a little bit. He's the host of Sports Talk Winnipeg, Sports Talk WPG on the Twitter machine. Hustler and I go way back. He is a big Chiefs guy. He was in Kansas City last week, so I got to get his thoughts on a couple things. Of course, we are going to preview the Super Bowl. We'll talk Eagles and Chiefs. Seeing a little bit of line movement, see some totals now creeped up to 50, and see 1.5 for Philadelphia. We'll see how the books do adjust here over the next few days. Got a lot of stuff to talk to Hustler about. We're going to dig a little bit deep when it comes to Travis Kelce. Going to go back a few years and look at the young buck. And something fun there. We're actually going to do a lot of things. We're going to look at touchdown props. I got some NFL props for you for the Super Bowl a little bit later on in the show. We usually have like one or two per episode. I got a couple towards the end. It is NHL All-Star Week here. So as I mentioned last week, it was just the other day, a perfect opportunity for the NHL to schedule some rivalry games this weekend, bring in some new blood, some new fans who would not have to compete with football. They had the Pro Bowl activities last night. Derek Carr actually showed up. It was pretty good. Comedian Derek Carr. After he had a really nice, he was like accuracy across the board. He was like hitting his targets. And then after they asked him about, I forget the way that the question was phrased by Ryan Clark, just, and you very accurate out here, and how were you so accurate and things like that. And he's just like, maybe this is why Vegas doesn't want me or something like that. So shots fired. The latest rumor, of course, is Aaron Rodgers to the Packers. All football talk here today, and a little bit of NHL talk, as I mentioned. A perfect opportunity, really, is what I was going for the NHL to schedule some good games, not have to compete with football, and they have an all-star weekend here, which is usually the case. It's usually the case. The All-Star weekend does happen the week before the Super Bowl because, of course, the Bleu Blanc Rouge Montreal Canadian fans know that they always have the Super Bowl matinee at the Bell Center on Saturday and Sunday games next weekend. Canadians not playing too well these days, but the Jets are. They're just 1 point back of first in the Central, so we'll have a little bit of Jets talk. Morrissey is in the hardest shot competition. Got some fun, loose NHL All-Star props for you. Hardest shot, accuracy, fastest skater. Talk about strategy. I know you can play some DFS and NHL, and we have some tips and stuff like that for those that are playing. It's really a tough weekend to handicap. I mean, there's obviously so many superstars. Any one of those guys could win the accuracy or the hardest shot or even the fastest skater, and any team can certainly win. I think the Dogs are like 3-1. I saw Metro at 3-1. They may have the best goalie duo potentially with Igor Shesterkin and Ilya Sorokin, but there's a lot of good goalie duos out there. There's a lot of good teams, a lot of good players playing this weekend. The totals are crazy, like 13.5, 11.5. I kind of have a lean to the under, people. We can't be taking over 13.5, 14.5 on this show, but we'll dive into it in just a little bit. We also have some fun novelty props as well, like some Gatorade stuff, Rihanna's first song. We have all kinds of stuff here on this show to get to. And with that, we will take a quick break. A friendly reminder, ftnbets.com. FTNdaily.com, both of our websites, running free trials, 3-day trials on both of those websites. The PGA got underway yesterday, Pro-Am. I saw, Rogers rolled one in, little Josh Allen, a little tap in for birdie, things like that. But, it doesn't stop just because the tournament is underway. The content doesn't stop over at FTN Daily. We're still diving into some articles and some props, and you can take a look at the optimizer, the NBA optimizer, NFL things. We're going to have a free FTN DFS show, Super Bowl show happening this weekend. The big game. Can't even say Super Bowl these days. The big game. 57. So check out that. Make sure you're subscribed to our FTN Network YouTube page. And then on the bet side, as I mentioned yesterday, the college picks have been hot from the crew. NHL on pause this weekend, but we will have a lot of Super Bowl picks for you and props across all sports. You can see them all, projections tools, Discord channel, all included with this 3-day free trial. If you're looking for more, use the promo code Meaney. Save yourself a little bit of cash. We will take care of you at FTN across all sports. And I just saw there's a promo as well if you're looking for an early look at the fantasy baseball package. That's right. It doesn't stop at FTN. Sports and all the time. Kyle Wood's in the house. Any Tony or MVS props that might help us decide between the two? Honestly, I haven't seen anything from any of those guys. Just touchdown props. That's it. I haven't seen any catch props, receiving yard props. I know yesterday Tony didn't practice. Mecole Hardman didn't practice. Juju didn't practice. We're not going to get anything from those guys until maybe next week. And Kyle, also happy Friday. Been iced in here in ATX for most of the weekend. Finally back out and about. Good to hear. Welcome in to Mean Streets. We'll be back in a couple. Hustlers in here next. Keep your locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN Data.
Welcome back in. You're watching Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney, as we bring in Andrew Paterson, a.k.a. Hustler Rama, the host of Sports Talk Winnipeg, Sports Talk WPG on the Twitter machine. Looks like you're at Arrowhead right now. Loving it. I know you were there last weekend. Must have had a great time.
Oh, my God. It was unbelievable. Yeah. Listen, I knew you were going to be rocking a lot of green, so I got the Kingdom shirt on. I got the Arrowhead background, and ready to chop it up and look ahead to a week Sunday. But as far as last Sunday goes, Meaney, it was, well, first off, it was cold. I was joking you off air. I trained for that one by sucking it up and making it through that Bomber Rider West final in December 2 years ago in Winnipeg. And to be honest, with the wind in Kansas City, I think it actually felt colder in KC yesterday. But my God, that stadium was completely electric. We got there, I don't know, 4 hours before the game. The tailgate scene in Arrowhead is, I mean, to be honest, 25 years ago, that was what made me fall in love with just everything about the Chiefs and sort of made me a Chiefs fan. There was a championship level performance by the tailgaters before the game. Let me just say that. And then the game delivered. I mean, an absolute thriller. Two great teams, so evenly matched. You knew it would be a close one. Couldn't get much closer. And the Chiefs are off to another Super Bowl. And what a matchup. Top two teams in the league, one seed. Let's go.
I know a lot of people out there talking about no chalk. Chalk wouldn't happen, but chalk certainly happening, right? And Mahomes on his way to another MVP. And, maybe it would have been a lot closer if Jalen Hurts didn't suffer that injury. Now these two get to go toe-to-toe together. I wanted to ask you about the tailgate because that's what I hear about Kansas City. And now I've only been to a select few stadiums across the league. And I'm all about the tailgate, obviously, that experience. And I think, even loose NFL fans are all about that tailgate experience. And I was going to ask you where it stacks up across the league. I mean, I hear it's, even when you do some research and you ask some other people, they'll tell you, top 5, right? With the barbecue and the atmosphere and the excitement. And then in the stadium, they also tell you it's the loudest place in the world when it comes to sports, man. And I think you can probably back that up, can't you?
Yeah, they got that 142.2 number on the decibel meter that everyone's pretty proud of. To be honest, I've been to a lot of the stadiums in and around. I've never seen anything, honestly, that's close to Arrowhead. And the reason I say that is just, it's such a unique spot. Like, you've got a parking lot that is probably, I don't know, like 100 acres. There's no bars. There's no restaurants. There's absolutely nothing. You've got Arrowhead, you've got the K, and you've got a few miles of concrete. So you almost have to tailgate. I mean, there's no, a lot of places you can go a few blocks down and have a few beers and walk into the stadium. That is not the case. And I think that is sort of why that tailgate culture has become synonymous with Chiefs football. Listen, there's wackos that are lined up to get into the stadium the night before because they want to get their spot. And then obviously when it comes into what they're cooking out in, I mean, you could do a few Food Network shows just on what's happening in the Arrowhead parking lot before the games. And obviously with the success that the team has had, I mean, the excitement about this team every time they go out, whether you're just there to have a couple beers and eat in the parking lot or a diehard fan. I mean, it doesn't get much better than the game experience both before and during the Arrowhead.
So the Winnipeg weather prepared you, right? Our old buddy Gatesy, Jeremy Gates, he always tells me Winnipeg is the windiest place in the world, but I think you had a little bit more wind there in Kansas City. What do you hear, dude? What do you think of when you hear that? To close the book on that game, the whole Burrowhead stuff. My goodness, like you've covered the sport so many years, and you've been to Super Bowls, and you've interviewed post-game, pre-game with some of these athletes and things. And you always hear things like, oh, bulletin board material. And then you say, oh, do you really need extra motivation to get up for a game like that? But after the Chiefs won that game, it's all Travis Kelce wanted to talk about, dude. Was the mayor, was Burrowhead, this is our house, like forget it. Like there's no reason to fire up the opponent like that. What was the feeling like at Arrowhead when you hear that sort of stuff?
Well, I can tell you that amongst the fan base, people were, I mean, I think even a little bit more riled up. I mean, listen, this team was 0-3 against the Bengals. They knew that was the one team that they hadn't beaten. And half the Bengals seem to want to remind them of that on a daily basis heading into the game. And, I was talking to Jackson Jeffcoat earlier today for Winnipeg Sports Talk. He's down in Austin. And a former Texas player. He doesn't pay a lot of attention to the National Football League, but we were talking about the game, and it was the first thing that he said. I couldn't believe how so many of Burrow's teammates set him up the way he did. Notice that it wasn't Joe Burrow calling it Burrowhead. It was Eli Apple and a bunch of guys that aren't even blocking for him doing that. And, he thought that was unnecessary. And I mean, I think you can have whatever theory you want. Listen to what the Chiefs had to say after the game. It was very clear that not only were they already ready to win and want to get back to the Super Bowl, but they took it all personally. And I don't think it did the Bengals any favors. And it kind of shows a team that, has had limited amount of success, but hasn't really. I mean, listen, they blew a lead in the Super Bowl last year.
Right.
A strong team this year, but I mean, that's really it. And I think that sort of showed going into the game that they did a bunch of things in front of microphones that did not help them on the field on Sunday. And it just put a ton of pressure on a guy that has thrived under it in Joe Burrow. But I think it was somewhat unnecessary. And if you look back and I think pumped a bit of truth serum into the Chiefs, it helped them be focused and stay to the grind for that full 60 minutes, which is what they needed to do to pull it off, which was a great game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just one chapter, I said last week, of what will be several, I think, between Mahomes and Joe Burrow over the next few years. I mean, it's crazy to think that Mahomes has been to this point. I mean, the AFC Championship in every year that he's been a starter. And now he's going to go to the Super Bowl for the third time. And what is he, just like 27? Like it's unbelievable what he is doing at this point of his age. And then even on the other side with Burrow, I mean, he didn't get the W, but 2 full years as a starter. He's been at the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship game in both years. The Travis Kelce jabroni thing wasn't the funniest, craziest thing I've seen this week when it comes to Travis Kelce. Quan, do you want to cue this up? I want to see if Hustler remembers this. From Travis Kelce back, I think in 2016. Quan, cue this up. Let's roll this.
I feel like we would be just like knock 'em dead team.
Okay, I hear you.
So other than that, I'm just like can't really like say anything else.
The boys put the mean streets at the end of that. That's from catching Kelce. It's been years since I've seen. I mean, I don't think I've seen maybe a full episode, but I saw that surface last night on Twitter, and I was like, man, this is just jokes. I only realized now the girl's wearing the Pennsylvania shirt, but Travis Kelce, he's come a long way. And we had a debate yesterday, Andrew, on the show. I mean, it was just me really debating with myself about him potentially going down as maybe one of the best head ends to ever play the game. I know he's got a long way to go to catch up to Tony Gonzalez, but man, he's only 33. This guy that's averaged 70 yards per game over the course of his career. He's like a walking 1,000 yards every single year. And over the course of the last few years in the playoffs, this is a guy that, he's either finding the end zone or he's getting 100 yards. Man, what a player.
He is he's incredible, and he's been leaned on maybe even more this year, considering the turnover in the receiving core of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, listen, Kelce could retire right now, and he would be thought of amongst the best to ever do it. You're looking at these numbers. I mean, obviously Witten and Gates and Tony G with, the 15,000 yards. He's already sniffing around the all-time playoff leaders, and he'll have another chance to add to that coming up this week. And it's interesting, we were talking earlier this week on our show comparing the impact of Kelce and of Gronk, with Brady's retirement. And Gronk, I think, was more a pure tight end, like the most powerful, problematic player we've seen maybe ever at that position. Kelce, the way he does it, is almost more along the lines of a wide receiver. I mean, he's going to be up there with the catch record, regardless of position when it comes to playoffs. So they're different players. But it's been amazing to see how he's just gotten better and better and better every year. And the special connection that he and Patrick Mahomes has doesn't come around very often. And you have someone as good as what Mahomes does with as reliable a target as Kelce. That has been, in a lot of ways, the bread and butter of this Chiefs offense, as a number of players around them have changed over the course of these 5 straight runs to the AFC title game.
Yeah, and at 33, if he plays another 4 years, I mean, he's going to flirt with some of those Tony Gonzalez numbers if he does stay healthy, and hopefully he does indeed stay healthy. You're right about Gronk. I mean, I think of Gronk in the prime. I think of him as like just a complete mismatch, and just what he did as a tight end blocking as well. Like that was a big part of his game. He was phenomenal in all those years for New England. Speaking of Kelce and KC, let's get into this matchup just a little bit. We mentioned earlier 1.5 point favorites here. The Eagles, and the total has jumped up to 50.5 in some spots. Use our prop shop parlay calculator to get the best possible odds. Both tools free over at ftnbets.com. I'd ask you how to slow down Kelce, how to slow down Mahomes, but I feel like somebody else is going to have to step up here, Hustler, in this game for Kansas City. I mean, as of yesterday, no practice for Mecole Hardman, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kadarius Toney. We saw MVS have a big game last week. It's one thing to say you're going to double Kelce. We've seen lots of teams try to double Kelce and take him away and, have issues with that. The Eagles are a team that can get some pressure, as you know, without really blitzing. They can get pressure on the quarterback, 4 guys with double-digit sacks, and, just a handful of sacks away from breaking the all-time record as well. And we've seen Hassan Reddick have his way. If you didn't notice what he did in the playoffs with the 16.5 sacks, you've really seen it over the past couple of games. So I feel like Chauncey Gardner is going to do what he can with Kelce. Mahomes is the best quarterback in the pocket. He's the best quarterback out of the pocket. He wasn't really mobile last week, Hustler, but when he needed to be, he certainly was when the game was on the line. Who's the guy that steps up for Kansas City in this game? Who's the X factor other than Kelce?
You know who I really think it is Jerick McKinnon. And McKinnon, it's fascinating if you watch, the Chiefs over the course of this season. McKinnon wasn't really even involved for the most part in the first half of the year. I mean, they were still trying to give it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and he got hurt, and I'm not sure that experiment wouldn't have ended either way, even if he didn't get hurt. Pacheco's turned into a pretty reliable power running back that has made a few big plays. But if you look at the second half of the season, when the Chiefs were in tight games, when they were in the second half, when they needed a big play, it inevitably went back to McKinnon. And the other thing that I think is surprising to people, if they haven't paid very much attention to these Chiefs games, he's a smaller player, but he's in as much for pass protection as he is for being able to catch and run the football. And against a defense like Philadelphia, I think that is going to be even more important than it would normally be, which probably makes more touches and more snaps for McKinnon in the backfield. And at the end of the season, he was getting basically a touchdown every game. He's got a real good connection with Mahomes, and Mahomes really does trust him. A lot of the times it's been on screen passes, but considering if there's one area that the Chiefs might be able to take advantage of a great Eagles defense, it's in the running game. You see there, they're the 21st ranked rush defense. They're number 1 against the pass. So logic would tell you that they will try and move the football on the ground. And I have a feeling that Jerick McKinnon will be a central figure for the full 4 quarters for Patrick Mahomes, both getting the football and having opportunities to, make yardage and get into the end zone, but also, as importantly, giving him a little bit of extra help back in the pocket when he's trying to throw the football.
I love it. I couldn't agree more, actually. And last week I was on Jerick McKinnon because of that, because of the ankle injury, and I thought that he would be in there a little bit more as a pass protector. And I feel like he certainly is the better pass protector. He's the better pass catcher. And then Pacheco pops off for 5 catches for 59 yards last week. Was that just an outlier, or is this guy more involved now in the passing game? Because you kind of alluded to it. I wanted to bring that point up with you as well, is when you get that sort of pressure, and the screen game is so great in Kansas City, and Andy Reid getting his running backs involved over the course of his entire coaching career, those quick dump offs to maybe avoid the pressure with both backs. I think both of these running backs, the receiving yard props, I think are both in play this weekend.
No, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And it'll obviously be affected by who's able to play. And I know Andy Reid said yesterday it doesn't look like Mecole Hardman is going to be a part of the club for the Super Bowl. I think they're both holding out hope that Kadarius Toney and Juju Smith-Schuster will be able to play, and that will give Mahomes a little more to work with. But yeah, in the second half of that game, and that's what I still can't get over, and he's throwing passes to a dude with 6 times more tackles than catches in the National Football League. That was how depleted they were in the second half. So I think they are going to be leaning on those guys. I think the passing game certainly will be a part of it, but I just do think that the defense that the Eagles bring, the pass rush that they have, means that they're going to need a little bit more in the blocking game. And I know the size it'll surprise people with the size of those players, but McKinnon is clearly a more reliable blocker. And we've also seen set plays where he'll actually block and look like he's just part of blocking, and then cut out, grab the football, and move behind some blockers for some big yardage. So I'm pretty high on McKinnon this week. And I do think that the fact that Pacheco had so many more catches and yardage was a little bit of an outlier. If you're asking me to bet between the two, I'll still lean McKinnon based on what we've seen over the last half of the season and what the Chiefs have done in big games and in important moments.
Yeah, and a bunch of times he's led the team in catches and receiving yards, so he's been pretty consistent this year. As Pacheco's had a really nice campaign, and he runs hard as a rookie, man. I really like the way that he runs. He's very physical, but I do believe we could see a McKinnon game. So we talked a lot about Kansas City, X Factor. You saw the board with the offense. I say what you want about the opponents that the Eagles have played, but Jalen Hurts is 16-1 this season. He's won 21 of his last 23 games, dating back to last season as well. A dual threat quarterback, clearly. What are some things that maybe scare you as a Kansas City fan, or is there a weakness you feel like the Eagles could exploit here in this matchup?
Well, listen, they are playing a bunch of rookies in the secondary, and we saw Joe Burrow in big moments on Sunday. Being able to make big plays. Jamar Chase in double coverage handled it quite well in that big 4th down. And you saw that massive 3rd down from Burrow to Hurst. I'll say this. Hurst did not have a huge game, and he was, I think, a little bit, injured going in. So maybe that was part of the reason why he wasn't used as much until later on in the game. But I do think that Dallas Goedert, I think there'll be so much attention on A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. I think there is the potential that certainly as far as number of catches, first downs, moving the chains, I think Dallas Goedert will be a target that they will go. But I think from a Chiefs perspective, you have to respect the run so much. I really do believe it'll almost be a challenge from Spagnuolo for Jalen Hurts to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And man, the way the defense played last week, Chris Jones is going to be a huge factor again.
Absolutely.
It was Jones and Frank Clark that really stepped up in so many different ways and won that game. I mean, we always focus on the quarterbacks, but it was the defensive side of the football and the way they were able to get into the backfield. Now, the Philadelphia offensive line is in a whole nother stratosphere than what Cincinnati had last week. So it'll be incumbent on those players to even more so. And we know Spags likes to blitz. I mean, I think the challenge will be there. And it'll be on Jalen Hurts on the Eagles side of things and some young members of the Chiefs secondary to step up under the lights on the biggest stage to make impactful plays.
You know what I really like as a Chief, man? Nick Bolton. That guy's just all over the field, man. I got him in an IDP Dynasty League. I'm always thrilled with his tackling performances. Machine. He really is, man. He's a tackling machine. I do believe the Eagles will lean on the ground game. That's what they do best. I know, like, you look at some of the numbers last week, it was not super efficient against San Fran, but they stuck with the run and they created some big holes in the second half of that game. Hustler, if you don't mind, hang on one more break. We'll get a Super Bowl prediction out of you, MVP. We got some touchdown props. We got some fun stuff as well to talk about here. We got also Gatesy in the house. Gatesy in the house. He says, Eagles got this all day. Sorry, Hustler. Love Gatesy in there. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back in a second. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Keep her locked.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Bunch of Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney with Hustler Rama on the Twitter machine. We are talking Super Bowl 57. The Philadelphia Eagles 1.5-point favorites against the Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes and Reed. That's another storyline too. There's a lot of cool storylines. Of course, a lot of people are talking about the Kelce brothers. We've seen the Harbaugh brothers coach against each other. We saw the McCourty twins play in the Super Bowl on the same team, but Kelce versus Kelce is very cool. Of course, they have the podcast, New Heights. I heard Travis talk on the podcast. Don't you dare, Kansas City fans, put any Chiefs jerseys on the Rocky statue. Don't you dare put my Travis Kelce jersey on the Rocky statue. And then Jason said he just thought it was Philly fans being crazy and just putting it on there themselves.
Those two are so entertaining. I mean, yeah. And it is really cool. I mean, when you think about what both of them have done, they're already Super Bowl champions. I mean, this is the ultimate brother versus brother matchup where, they're playing for probably all-time bragging rights around the Thanksgiving dinner table. I mean, Mahomes and Reed, Andy Reid going up against his old team. We know the CV. One thing that I didn't know, Chris, that I did a little bit of digging, Nick Sirianni, of course, was with the Chiefs coaching staff and was let go when Andy Reid took over as the head coach. So, I mean, some really interesting storylines. But the bottom line is that we've got the two best teams in the NFL playing in the Super Bowl for the ultimate prize. And you certainly, from my perspective, I hope that Hurts is good to go, is close to 100%. I hope Mahomes is there.
Same.
And, from the injuries, just from a Chiefs side of things, we talked about those two receivers, Tony and Juju Smith-Schuster. The other guy that will be very, very impactful if he's in the game, or if he is not, is L'Jarius Sneed, who was lost earlier on, especially going up against the running game of the Eagles. I mean, he is one of the most reliable tacklers at that position in the National Football League, and they really will need him. And if he's unable to go, I think that is a big, big advantage for Philly.
Sirianni's taken a lot of heat lately. I know Julian Love, safety of the Giants, said that anybody could coach them. It's just nonsense, right? I mean, Chris Sims comes out and says that the Eagles would be undefeated with Gardner Minshew under center than Gardner Minshew. Then we get to see it firsthand, and they struggle on offense. I mean, they had a good game against Dallas, but let's be real, they struggle on offense. And Nick Sirianni's done a good job. Yeah, he's got a great roster, but also taking a look at last year as a rookie head coach, he was able to bring a team that nobody had any expectations for at all in Philadelphia. He was able to bring them to a playoff game. So I think he's done a great job as a coach. And listen, he's cocky. He comes with a little bit of swag. The camera's in his face. When they score a touchdown, he's going to celebrate. That's kind of what he does. But there's been no noise this year like there were in the past with like Doug Peterson and other head coaches, like some rumblings about players and me want the ball. I don't hear any of that stuff. So, I mean, that's credit to, I think, a good head coach as well. I want to bring up some fun props with you first, but let's maybe touch on just anytime touchdown props. Quan, if you have that one first, if there's one here, hustler that jumps out, of course, Kelce. I mean, like I said earlier, this guy is just an automatic touchdown and 75 plus yards. We've been taking the touchdown and the over in his receiving yard prop in each of the two games that he's played here in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts plus 113, Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown plus 135, Pacheco at plus 140, Devontae Smith at plus 170. Our guy McKinnon, right? 9 receiving touchdown guys from a running back this year, and Jerick McKinnon plus 185. You also mentioned Dallas Goedert, certainly a mismatch across the field at plus 190, MVS at plus 255. People are looking for longer shots here. Our prop shop showed Patrick Mahomes earlier in the week at 6-1. I wouldn't be shocked if he ran one in, even on the quote unquote bummed ankle. Gainwell at plus 370, Boston Scott at plus 550. Also, AS says Kelce anytime plus 100 over at Bet365. You can find some boosts and things like that. Keep an eye. I'm not breaking any news here. I like Kelce to score a touchdown, but is there anybody else here that checks a box for you? A defensive score, 6-1 on both sides, maybe a sneaky KC. I mean, if there's no Tony or Juju or Mecole Hardman, man, we could get nuts here and call a little long shot.
Well, you know what? I mean, just looking at that board, the top two guys are where they are for a reason. I mean, Kelce's
right.
about as automatic as there is a guy getting into the end zone in the NFL. And Jalen Hurts all season long has been able to do it with his legs and is a real problem to take down. And even though those are pretty short numbers, I think they're fair considering what those guys bring to the table. I mentioned Jerick McKinnon. That's probably the first place I'd be laying a wager on this list at plus 185, which is a pretty nice number. And Dallas Goedert on the Eagles side of things, as I mentioned, I think he's going to be impactful. I think you'll see plenty of balls, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he got in. Still getting close to 2-1 on that would be nice. And then you mentioned Mahomes. And there's going to be so much talk about Mahomes, the Zapruder film on his ankle, the fact that he wasn't as mobile as he normally is. But what did we see when the game was on the line, Chris? We saw Patrick Mahomes running the football and doing what needed to be done. They're not saving anything next Sunday. And Patrick Mahomes, 6-1, 5-1, whatever that number is, it wouldn't at all surprise me if he did it on his own. When they're in the red zone, maybe on a big third down, take it himself and jump in. So I'll definitely have a piece of Mahomes, but I'll be starting it with Jerick McKinnon and Dallas Goedert. And as I say, it's pretty hard not to like the value of those two guys at the top, considering how often they've been in the end zone.
Pretty juicy on Mahomes. I could see him running one in easily. I could see this guy running one in, and you never know, right? A PI, it sets you up, and you can, a sneaker or something like that. I know you're short for time, so I want to get you out of here on a prediction, maybe a score prediction and a Super Bowl MVP. I know we got some odds. It's usually quarterbacks, but we have seen over the past few years, maybe defensive players. Last year Cooper Kupp as well. Somebody came on the show last week, talked about Darius Slay as like 55-1, 60-1. I talked about Reddick at 50-1 when it opened up, but it's okay. You can go top of the board, and you could also come in here and talk up your Chiefs. I have no problem with that, dude. What do you got? Score prediction, MVP.
Well, as far as the game goes, let me throw down. Actually, geez, I'm seeing the total on some places has gone to 51. This would be a push.
Oh, my goodness.
But 27-24 Kansas City in a hell of a football game. And you know what's funny? I mean, we're looking at the line moving from 1.5, 2. To me, this is a money line bet. I mean, you're picking the team you think that are going to win, and you're throwing it down on the money line, getting the best number you can wherever you're making your wager. As far as MVP, I mean, listen, if the Chiefs win, it would take such an incredible performance on somebody else for it not to be Patrick Mahomes. I think it's 95% likely that if the Chiefs win this football game, Patrick Mahomes is going to be the MVP. But if you wanted to look at some value on a couple of other guys, Jerick McKinnon at 50-1, we kind of talked about the reasons why we think he'll be very, very involved in a number of ways. And I think he'll be on the field more than he's been in almost any other game this season. And Chris Jones. And, I was looking at some props on, fumbles. Jalen Hurts, I saw plus 625 to lose a fumble in the game. I mean, if Chris Jones can get in, get a couple sacks, if he can create a turnover, people are paying attention to Jones right now. He had his playoff coming out party last week in such a dominant performance against Joe Burrow. If he has a similar type of game, he's maybe the one guy that could get the, could maybe sway people from just the automatic pick of the winning quarterback in Patrick Mahomes for how great he is. So Jones and McKinnon, probably a little bit of value, but I'm pretty sure if the Chiefs win, it's going to be Mahomes.
Yeah, it'd be a fantastic showing from Mahomes. I like the sacked props on both sides, like 2.5. Obviously, Eagles a little bit more juice, but I think we'll see probably 5 or 6 sacks in this football game. Love it, Hustler. Any inside information on the way out about how hard of a shot Josh Morrissey has here, or what? Are they calling him Josh Norrisy in Winnipeg these days?
Josh Norrisy's the man. And he put the team. I don't know if you caught that game on Monday. It was the only game. Jets had played terrible for the last week. They'd been shut out by Philly. The Boo Birds were coming out. They were down 2-0 after the third period. And Norrisy himself put the team on his back, scored to finally break that drought. And very uncharacteristically, I mean, had an expression to the crowd after a goal that we've never seen before from him. It was like, to quote him, "Let's effing go." I won't say the full word. And it turned what was basically a mausoleum into a rock concert. The team scored 4 goals in the third period. And we've been talking all week on Winnipeg Sports Talk on how it's not a matter of if, but when Josh Morrissey gets the C for this club. As far as the hardest shot, I was a little surprised that was what he was going. That was the event that he was going into. I mean, he's not a huge guy. He does have a good shot, but I put it this way. I think there's a reason why he's at the bottom of the odds board. But as we've seen before, Meaney, there's no rhyme nor reason to plenty of these events. So maybe we'll jump on a little bit of Norrisy to see if he can make it happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Seth Jones. The one thing we can say is defensemen usually win this award. So if you're looking at history at all, probably Darlene Jones or Morrissey, but we'll have a little supportive sprinkle on 44 here in the peg for the guy that will at one point be the captain of the Winnipeg Jets.
I love it. I love it. And finishing strong, because I was going to ask you that if he was going to be the captain. And I mean, you just kind of said it right there. I mean, a fantastic season from him. 53 points, 10 goals. From a fantasy perspective, he's a top 5 fantasy hockey defenseman. And he's a top 30 player overall. Touches a lot of categories, blocks a lot of shots, throws his body around, and he's been a beast for the Jets in the power play. 1 point back of the lead in the Central. And then you could still get 35-1 for them to win the Cup. I could talk all day with you, Hustler. You are fantastic. Good luck, dude. Good luck to your Chiefs. Enjoy the game. I know you will. It should be fantastic. Maybe we can chop it up again after the game, and maybe we can catch up. Maybe when the NHL trade deadline goes down, we'll see if the Jets add a piece or two. Always a pleasure to catch it up with you. Hustler Rama, why don't you tell people where they can check you out?
Yeah, we're live on YouTube every Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. Crank that out for a couple hours a day. And Also, if you're on YouTube, check out myself and Dustin Nielsen. We get into lots of fun sports betting content in the Lock Shop. It's at Lock Shop Bets. Give us a sub there. And obviously a little slower coming out of football season, not as much daily content, but we're still cranking out 3-4 episodes a week. And you can just check out the Lock Shop wherever you get podcasts, as well as Winnipeg Sports Talk. Meaney, I hope to get out your way this summer. Let's put a couple beers on this game, and it'll be fun either way to pay it off and enjoy each other's company in person. Maybe get a round out with some of the fellas out in Halley.
Absolutely, dude. We'll hit the links. We'll have a couple cold pops by the harbor. We'll listen to some live tunes, and I'll enjoy all the beers that you'll owe me when the Birds win the game next week.
We'll see. Never bet against Patrick Mahomes.
Never do it. It's bad. It's bad to do that. Appreciate you, dude. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk soon. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Don't go anywhere.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Oh man, Hustler's great. Fantastic stuff from him. I wanted to bring this stuff up with him, but we went a little long in the game, which is more important than some of these props, and we're going to show you guys anyways. But just want to have some fun here. Quan, let's start with the Gatorade shower props, okay? All kinds of novelty props out there. Love this board. Love that George put Reed on it. So like just jinxing Andy with the orange from a few years ago. So orange favorite here at plus 350, yellow, green, 4-1, blue, 4-1, red, pink at plus 450, clear water plus 500, purple. I mean, that's my favorite. I'm a grape. I love the G2 purple plus 750, and then just none, straight up none. 1,000. I got some info here. Listen, I came across this on OddsShark. They broke down an article and they talked about when the Gatorade shower started. And I didn't know this. After a 37-13 win over Washington during the 1984 season, Jim Burt decided that he wasn't getting enough playing time and was being treated unfairly during practice. So Burt used Gatorade to dump on the entire coaching staff. It was like a cooler of sugar and water. I don't think there's really any color to it, but he dumped it on Giants head coach Bill Parcells. It was the first ever Gatorade bath. And then OddsShark in the article went on to say Parcells would have a Gatorade poured on him 17 times during the 1986 NFL season. Of course, they won the Super Bowl that year, and that's the tradition that we know. And the psycho that I am, I went back and I just looked at the past few. I can't be going back and looking. I mean, OddsShark broke it down. I mean, you can Google OddsShark broke it down, and they went, and I think it looked till like Super Bowl 35 or 30 or something like that. But I just went back and looked at the last few years. So Super Bowl 56 last year, blue. Super Bowl 55, blue. Super Bowl 54, as you saw on the board, was the orange with the Chiefs. Pats 50 Super Bowl 53 blue. So a lot of blue here over what were the odds for the blue? Like 4-1. Like it kind of seems like blue is the way to go. But Super Bowl 52 was yellow for the Eagles. The Patriots, none. I guess Bill Belichick told them, listen, guys, don't bother. But blue or yellow. And then last week when the Eagles won, Fletcher Cox, Lane Johnson, they poured the Gatorade over Nick Sirianni, and it was yellow. Maybe yellow is just a thing. I know colors, like in teams, people like to do that. This actually doesn't really seem like a thing, but maybe the Eagles just like yellow. So I will go with yellow because I do believe that they're going to win the game yellow-green, but if you're following trends, it could be blue. Let's continue with some of these. We're going to dive into them a little bit deeper. And how much deeper can you get with like First Commercial and the beer and the chips and things like that? But we will have this stuff on our FTN Network big game show coming your way on Thursday, live on our FTN Network YouTube page at 7 Eastern. Budweiser, First Commercial to play here. Budweiser is the favorite at +175. Bud Light +190. Stella at 4-1. Look at the little bats in there. We just chucked that in at the end. That's not a thing. That's not going to happen. But of course, the show. It's Bud. It's always Budweiser, right? It's always going to be Bud. What else do we have here, Quan? I love these. I love these props. It's super fun. Look at the Dorito girl, right? Hey, pick up the phone now, Duque. What's up? Dorito +125. Snickers +150. Cheetos 3-1. Avocados from Mexico. I didn't even know what the heck that is. You got to go with Doritos, right? It's always a fun little Dorito commercial. And I do believe the WhatsApp was actually a Budweiser one. I'm aware of that one. What else do we have here? Look at this stuff. Doritos versus M&M's +115. M&M's -135. I feel like M&M's always has some fun Super Bowl commercials. I'm going to go with them. Bubbly versus Pepsi. What's the deal with Pepsi? I thought it was always Pepsi up versus Coke. I got to take Pepsi over Bubbly and over Coke. Doritos over Pringles +100. Man, the things that you can bet on with the Super Bowl, right? It's wild. We're going to have a bunch of fun shows next week as well. And Rihanna's first song, listen, I like a lot of music. I grew up with, some classic rock in the house. A classic rock station I worked at for about 10 years. I'm a big hip hop guy, but man, I love me some Rihanna. I'm not going to lie, man. I love the beats and get me in the club. Don't Stop the Music 3-1. Diamonds 5-1. What's My Name 5-1. Umbrella 6-1. Stay 6-1. Lift Me Up 7-1. We Found Love 7-1. Where Have You Been 8-1. I think it's gonna be Don't Stop the Music. It's like an iconic song for Rihanna, one of her first, right? It's got a little bit of a beat in there, can pump up the crowd. But I'm gonna take a shot on Where Have You Been 8-1. We Found Love. It's more of a Calvin Harris song. I'm gonna go with a little small sprinkle on Don't Stop the Music and Where Have You Been. Those would be my two. But again, just wanted to bring some different props to you guys. Think of a play and you can bet on it in the Super Bowl. Honestly, they're just a crazy amount of props, and we'll have some fun with them next week. And of course, on our NFL betting show as well. There's not a lot of inside analysis when it comes to those props. What can you do, right? I mean, Rihanna knows what song she's going to play. And I think people inside of her circle know what song she's going to play as well. It's crazy to me that you can actually make bets on those things. Other things that you can make bets on: hardest shot, accuracy, all that stuff. Fastest skater. That's here next on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a couple. Welcome back in. A couple fun NHL All-Star Game skills competition props here for you, Quan, if you want to chuck some up, and we'll just roll through this. I mean, I'll sit back and I'll watch this, have some fun, but you got to take this with a grain of salt. I mean, people put a small wager, a small wager here. Look at the All-Star props for accuracy shooting. We have Connor McDavid favored at 5-1, Leon Draisaitl 6-1. This is from DraftKings, by the way. Jack Hughes 6-1, Nikita Kucherov plus 650. Sasha Barkov at 7-1, Panarin at 7-1, Tarasenko 9-1, Kadri at 9-1, Kevin Hayes and Brock Nelson at 11-1. Thanks for coming out, dude. I don't think either of those guys are going to win it, but I mean, if you're looking for a long shot, those would be it. I'd actually have a lean to Hayes over Nelson. I mean, Tarasenko is a sniper. I'm looking at these other guys, right? I mean, David is obviously a beast, but this guy's more of a pass first guy, right? I'm leaning Tarasenko here, 9-1. I think Kucherov wins it, though, at plus 650. Kucherov, Panarin, Tarasenko, like those are my three guys who've really got not a strong feeling with those guys, but those are the guys that I mean, Kucherov is just an absolute sniper. You don't see it. He's always passing it. He's going to be shooting it in this contest. What else do we have here? Fastest skater, Dylan Larkin, plus 250. Chandler Stevenson, 3-1. Kyle McCarr, plus 320. Kirill, the Thrill, $, Bill Kaprizov, 5-1. Andrei Svechnikov at 6-1. I guess they didn't want to have McDavid in it. I mean, he's won it 3 times, right? You got to have somebody else in there. I'm going to go with Larkin. I know he's the favorite here, but he did win in 2016, 13.1 seconds. I think Kaprizov is certainly in play. McCarr is obviously very, very sneaky, speedy. I wasn't super impressed with him the last time I saw him in the skills comp, but I would go with Larkin there. Hardest shot. We got Ovechkin as the favorite at 3-1. Rasmus Dahlin at plus 350. Seth Jones at plus 380. Elias Pettersson at 4-1. And then Josh Morrissey, which we just talked to Hustler about at 4-1. I hate to go with just favorites all the time. Elias Pettersson has a sneaky hard shot. Alex Ovechkin has been clocked at 103.1 in like previous events, Washington events. You know, sometimes I feel like he can't keep the puck low enough. He's got such a crazy curve, and he's always like clappers, you know, top of the circle that go like top cheese. But you got to keep it low along the ice is the success here. I remember Ali Afraidy in like 93. That's right. I remember at 93 at the Forum, like a 103, 104, keeping it low. I'm going to go with Ovi. I got to take the favorite here at plus 300. But if you're looking for a sneaky long shot, it would be Elias Pettersson 4-1. As for the game itself, you can't, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. All the teams are basically like 3-1. I think the best roster is probably the Atlantic. I mean, it's the best division in the NHL. No Austin Matthews, of course, but you still have David Pastrnak. You still have Mitch Marner. Slick Nick Suzuki's finally going to play with some good players. And it's a really good 1-2 punch in net. I know it's not all about the goaltending, but which goalie can actually make the big save, right? Andrei Vasilevsky, Linus Ullmark, those are 2 strong goalies. And I think the Metro too, like that's the longest shots in terms of odds because Ilya Sorokin and Igor Shesterkin, but I'm not crazy about their offense, even though they do have some iconic players like Ovechkin and Crosby there. But we do have some DraftKings stuff. Just, you know, shoot for goals and take some shots on some players like a Troy Terry, who's like super cheap, maybe a Nick Suzuki, super cheap, but look for, you know, shoot first guys, have some fun with it. Again, take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't be putting your hard-earned bucks on this, but it should be fun. You know, there's going to be some beach stuff like they did last year in Vegas with like the fountains. I think that stuff was already recorded pre-hand and they'll show it tonight, but I have a feeling we'll see some fun stuff from Ovechkin and Crosby. It's been a while since we've seen both of those guys in the game, right? We've seen both of them miss games, you know, injuries and things like that. But it's going to be pretty cool to see both of those guys again. It could be the last time we see both of them again in the All-Star game. So it should be pretty fun. I think Atlantic takes it down. We're going to take another break, and we got some NFL props for the Super Bowl to wrap up Mean Streets. Keep her locked.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Welcome back in. We've been giving some props all week, and we'll continue to give some props. And if you are subbed over at ftnbets.com, you have all of our picks across all sports. ftnbets.com/free. Sign up for free and check out everything that we have to offer over at FTN Bets. Tools, projections, picks across all sports, Discord channel. It's all there for you. Sign up for a free 3-day trial. Use promo code Meaney if you like what you see. A couple props here, too. Running backs on the way out. Let's start with Kenneth Gainwell of the Philadelphia Eagles here. You know, the last couple games, 13 for 48, 12 for 112. I know some of those games were certainly out of hand, and they ran the ball. You know, you're not going to see 13, 12 carries here from Kenneth Gainwell. You could see 5 or 6, though. We've had multiple games this season where he's had 5 or 6. We have him for 26 rushing yards in our projections, over 17.5. Use the prop shop -114 over at Bet Rivers. I'm seeing a lot of 20s across other books, so I do believe this is an edge over at Bet Rivers, and I think this will jump up a little bit higher. Listen, the Eagles, this is what they do best. They run the football. They ran the football on really good rush defenses this year, just like they did last week against the San Francisco 49ers. And this week, you know, they got a much easier matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. So that one. And then the other running back across the in the other game, I like Jared McKinnon. I like where Hustler was talking about McKinnon. We've been down the McKinnon road multiple times. I think maybe last week was a little bit of an outlier. 6 targets, 5 grabs for 59 receiving yards. Only 1 catch for 6 receiving yards against Jacksonville. He's had some big receiving yard games, believe it or not. 17, 16, 23, 32, 18. More involved in the passing game down the stretch. Not a bad pass blocker. McKinnon is the better pass blocker, but I do like Pacheco in this spot. The pressure that the Eagles can get on the quarterback and what KC does and Andy Reid, they do a really good job of just like screen passes. This is just 1 catch. We can get this on 1 or 2 catches here. A screen pass, avoid the pressure. Don't know who is going to step up other than MVS. The wide receiver room is very depleted at the moment right now. So taking the over 12.5 for Isaiah Pacheco for a receiving yard prop. And I'm looking for some catches. We'll dive into that in a little bit. Look at this. Quick, look at this. John Rideout in the house, chirping me with the hat. Send me a Rams one. You had your time. Didn't love my Eagles Super Bowl bet. He said, why don't you bet on a team that's going to win? That was from August. And Mr. Roper, as we get out of here. What's up, Meaney? With all the Eagles gear on and then the wings under your hat, you might fly away before the episode is over. Great show. Let's keep it rolling. We're a little long for Game Plus Network. We'll say goodbye to Game Plus Network, but can we end with the Kelce thing one more time, please? Catching Kelce.
I feel like we would be just like knock 'em dead team.
Okay, I hear you.
So other than that, I am just like can't really like say anything else.
Yes.